And we will talk all about the info box. And I mentioned this at the beginning as some of you were signing on, but this info box tool is one of our newest content creation tools. It was part of our updates that we made this summer. And so I'm really excited that you're able to join me this morning to learn a little bit more about it. I do want to point out just a few things that I'd mentioned a minute ago. So our future webinar sessions are all listed here in your dashboard. And we did just push out the webinar sessions for next week here. So if you're interested in signing up for any of these topics, you can do that in this little upcoming webinars area in your dashboard. And then again, I'd also mentioned our instructions and tutorials and submitting a support ticket. So I want to point both of those things out here as well. You can get to those by hovering over the SNO support tab in your dashboard. The instructions and tutorials, this is where you can find resources on pretty much anything you might want to do on the site, including, if I search Infobox here, a tutorial on how to create info boxes, which we'll go through this morning. And then also under SNO support is that option to submit a support ticket to us if you've got questions about things or if you'd like access to a recording of this webinar after today. So I'm going to actually start this webinar by showing you what those info boxes look like, and then I will walk you through the steps of how to create them and insert them into stories. Basically, an info box is any kind of content insert that you want to place within a story. So I've heard lots of really creative ideas about how to use these, and I'm curious too if you have any ideas after I kind of show you what they look like. If you want to drop those ideas in the chat for other participants, I think that would be great. So let me show you what these info boxes look like. This is just kind of a regular story I have published on my site, and I've got 3 different options for these info boxes in terms of formatting. And again, you're going to see they're kind of separate content inserts here. So my first formatting option for the info box is called the stack. And you can see I've just got these different sections with information in here that are kind of stacked on top of each other. So you've got the stack info box format here. My second formatting option for info boxes is the slider. So rather than having those different sections of information stacked, I can easily slide or toggle between them here. And then my last option for formatting an info box is the accordion style, which is going to give you kind of an expandable, collapsible format for those different sections in your info box. And you'll notice with this example, the other 2 had photos as the media. For this one, I've actually got video and audio inserted into those segments or sections of the info box. So I will just share a couple ideas that I've heard for ways to use these info boxes, and this is just from other advisors and workshops and things this summer. I think an FAQ kind of info box would be really great if you wanted to do like an accordion style info box and have different questions, and then they can expand and see the answers. I've heard like for a campus-wide spirit day or campus-wide events, if you wanted to do an info box, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and list out those events as different sections in the info box. I've heard people wanting to use these for maybe they're doing a write-up on a sports team and they're going to create an info box to kind of highlight different athletes on that sports team. Could maybe slide between and read a little bit about those athletes or coaches, new teachers, kind of the same thing. Have those different sections for each person. I have heard the other things here, maybe it's getting to be fall time, you're doing a review of horror movies or Halloween movies. Maybe you want to do a different section in the info box for each movie that you're reviewing, or maybe you are doing like fall drink reviews at Starbucks or something like that. You want to do an info box, different sections for each of those drinks that you're reviewing. So just lots of different uses, I think, for these info boxes. And again, if you have any other ideas beyond those couple that I shared, please do feel free to share those ideas with everybody in the Zoom chat. So now that you've kind of seen what they look like, I will walk you through how to create one of those info boxes. I'm going to jump into my dashboard here, and there is a tab for the info boxes on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then from there, I will add my new info box. Now, before I start kind of building it out, I do have to do two things, and those directions are included here. I first have to give it a title, and then I also have to save it as a draft. So I'm going to do, we'll just call this one Webinar Info Box, and then I will save it as a draft. So once I've done those couple things, again, title it and save it as a draft, I am ready to start building it out here. And those different sections that we just saw, you open one of those info boxes up again. These different sections or parts of the info box, we're calling those segments. And so in this middle section here, when you're setting up your info box, you'll be prompted to enter in your segments. So I'm going to go ahead and add a segment here. And see, maybe if I'm doing an info box about this webinar, I would want to say my first segment is going to be all about time. And I can enter in whatever text I want there, as well as whatever media I want. Now I could do a photo, as you saw in those examples, I could do a video or audio embed, or I can choose to have no media and just go with the text for that particular segment. For this one, I will go ahead and add in an image here. We'll use this one. And then I'm just going to repeat that process of adding that segment or that additional section for however many segments I want in my info box. I will tell you, you can have up to 50 of these segments in an info box. Now, I kind of personally think that 50 is a lot, and I think it'd probably be pretty rare that you would have that many segments in one info box, but you can have up to 50. So I'm just going to go ahead and add another one, maybe another piece of information I would need for this webinar would be location. So again, I'm going to give it that heading, enter in whatever text I want here, and then I can do a photo, a video, or audio embed, or no media. I'm going to go ahead and embed a video on this one. So this works very similarly to anytime you would embed a video on your site. I'm going to go out and grab the embed code for that video from wherever I'm hosting it. In this case, I'm just going to use this YouTube video here. Copy that embed code and then place it here. If I want, I can add a credit line for the video and a caption for it as well. So we'll do one more segment. So again, I'm going to add segment there. I will give it a heading. Enter in some text. And for this one, I'm going to not include any media. So it'll just be my text in this segment. So again, you can add up to 50 segments. I'm going to just go with these 3. Once I've added in all of those segments and I've kind of built the parts of my info box, I'm going to come over here to the right and I can choose which of those formats I want for my info box, whether it is that stack, kind of stacking those segments on top of each other, that slider, or the accordion. I'm going to do slider for this one. That is my personal favorite format. Other things that you'll see in this formatting box, you have the option to collapse all of your segments or expand them out. And that becomes really useful if, let's say, I want to rearrange my segments in here. I can do that using these arrows within each of the segments. And I think it's a little bit easier if you're going to do any kind of rearranging to first collapse the segments and then click and drag and rearrange the order there. And then you can expand them back out after you have rearranged them. And you've got the option to collapse or expand all your segments there. You can also add in an info box byline if you would like to. So if I click on that, you're going to see this byline field pop up underneath the title of the info box. And this works just like a byline for a story. So if I put somebody's name in here, I can credit multiple people. Maybe I had a couple different students work on this info box together. As I said, this works the same as the byline for a story. So as soon as I publish this info box, if I add that byline in there, this info box will get pulled in and displayed in that student's staff profile. So really kind of a nice feature there to be able to add a byline to the info box should you want to do that. Lastly, before we publish this info box, I do have some design options here in this info box design area. There are a lot of different things, as you can see, to play around with in here. So I would definitely kind of get in here and explore. You know, I can do things like show the info box title or hide it if I don't want that title to show there. I can choose the location for my media here. I've got some different options. I can do things like choose how wide I want the info box to be, what background color I want, text color, how tall I want those photos to be. There's some things about padding and font and text size and weight in here. So again, just a lot of different settings that you can kind of play around with to design that info box exactly how you want it. Once I have all of my segments in there and I've designed this how I want it, I have some different options. I can save this as a draft if I want to come work on the info box again later. There is an option to preview what the info box will look like prior to publishing it. And then lastly is the option to publish it. Now, this is a super important step. In order to insert this info box into a story on my site, it does have to be published first. So if I just save this info box as a draft and then go to add it to a story, it's not going to allow me to do that. Again, I do have to first publish the info box, which I'll go ahead and do. Once I publish it, then I will have the option to go add it into a story. So now that I've published this one, I'm going to open up the story that I want to insert it into. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my stories tab here, and I am going to insert my info box into this draft story I have here. So I'll open it up. And to add an info box into a story, you are going to use this Add SNO Story Element button up here at the top. Now, anytime you're using this Add SNO Story Element button, really, really important that you make sure to insert a line break or give that element its own space in the text of the story. I never want to place a SNO Story element at the end of a line of text. You're going to see some really kind of funky things happen with formatting if you do that. Small text, weird alignment. So again, anytime I'm adding a SNO Story element, whether it's an info box in this case or something else, I want to make sure that I give it its own space in the text here. So once I have done that, I'm going to click on Add SNO Story Element here. And then I've got all of my different elements I can add. And in this case, we will go ahead and select the info box element. Once I do that, I will be able to select which info box I want to insert into the story. And again, you'll see up here, these are my published info boxes. So really important that I make sure I publish that info box first so that it is an option to select here. So I'm going to do that webinar info box that I just published. And once I select that, I can insert it into my story here. When I insert that info box into a story, what you're going to see here is the short code that the site is going to read to display that info box. So if we want to see what it looks like, I can come in here and take a quick look. And here I can see my info box with all of those segments that I added, the media, the text, and it is in the slider format here. So I can toggle between those different segments. So that is the process of adding an info box into a story. Again, you're going to use this Add SNO Story element, select the info box option, and then from there, you can insert the info box you'd like into the text. The last thing just to note here is that let's say I add this info box into my story and I don't like the way that it looks, or maybe I need to add some additional segments. I need to do some editing to the info box. If I need to edit an info box, I do have to come back to this info boxes tab in my dashboard here. So I'm going to save this story as a draft really quickly. And then I'm going to come back to that info boxes tab here in the dashboard and find the one that I want to edit. So again, maybe I'm going to edit this webinar info box. From here, it's going to open up that info box for me, and I can do whatever editing I need to do. Maybe I need to add some additional segments in here. Maybe I want to add a photo to that third segment that I have. Maybe I want to change the format. So instead of a slider, maybe I want the accordion. Maybe I want to change some of these info box design things. Whatever I want to do, I'm going to do that from here. Once I've made those updates, I'm going to go ahead and click on Update here. And then what's going to happen once I update that info box, if we go back into that story where I've inserted it, I should see those updates now applied to that info box anywhere that I've inserted it on my site. So I can see this is now using the accordion style or the accordion format, and I can see that additional image that I added to that third segment there. So that is everything involved in creating and inserting those info boxes into stories on your site. Again, kind of the biggest things are you're going to first create and publish the info box here via this info boxes tab. Once that info box is created and published, you have the option to go add it into a story using the Add SNO Story element button there. So that is everything that I had planned to show you for today's webinar session. If you have any questions about info boxes, please feel free to share those in the chat. I'm happy to answer questions that you have in our remaining time. Again, if you have any suggestions for how you or your staff will use the info boxes, I'd love to hear about those in the chat. Otherwise, you can feel free to sign off whenever you are ready. And again, thank you all so much for joining me this morning to learn a little bit more about info boxes. It's great to have you this morning.